freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 348 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today is Universal Settlement Coin, and our guest is Rob McNealy. Rob is a serial entrepreneur, podcaster, cryptocurrency advocate, self-defense activist, welder, artist, and indie filmmaker. He earned an MBA from Colorado State University. Rob is a co-founder of TUSC, the Universal Settlement Coin, a decentralized, non-ICO cryptocurrency project that is focused on supporting financially marginalized industries with their payment issues.
My goodness, welcome to the show, Rob.
Hey guys, how are you?
We are about to get a huge education, I think, because this whole world of cryptocurrencies and blockchains and all that sort of thing is a little ethereal for me personally, even though our son-in-law has tried so many times to try to break through my mental blocks and help me understand. So just explain this to us like we are 5-year-olds, and you pick where we should start. But basically, the Universal Settlement Coin, TUSC, what is it? How do we use it? Why do we need it?
That's a lot of questions right there. It's almost loaded. And I always say it's like, if you have a mental block on technology or doing new things, there's nothing I can do to fix that. So I would say my mom's in her 70s. She refuses to learn how to do email. So it's like, she won't do email. And we try to be like, I just can't learn it. No, you just won't sit down and try, right? It's a mental block. So if you got a mental block on crypto, like you're not going to get it. But I will say, if you don't, you're going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. So basically we started TUSC, the Universal Settlement Coin, 3.5 years ago as a type of digital payment system. It's cryptocurrency. I always like to say we're like Bitcoin for guns, and Bitcoin is like it's the biggest cryptocurrency in the world. It's a big store of value. But ultimately, cryptocurrency are just digital money that anybody can create. And then ultimately it cuts out a lot of friction, and they're decentralized. And what that means is that, I guess it comes back down to the way I can explain it to someone like a 5-year-old is, why would we want to have money that's not created by and controlled by government? Okay, let's start there. Okay. So cryptocurrency, there are rules. Like, so with government, we all know this, and we've seen it. When government likes to print money, what ends up happening is everybody suffers, and we're seeing it now. All the printing under the last and current administrations have created a big inflation problem. And what inflation is just when government borrows, quote unquote, borrows money, they print a lot more money, right? They inject more money into the economy. But what ends up happening is it dilutes and devalues the value of the currency in whole. So what ends up happening is inflation is actually a stealth tax because of, I would say, corrupt monetary or irresponsible monetary policy by politicians. What cryptocurrency is, it's anybody can make one, right? It's getting people to use it, which is the harder part. But ultimately, with cryptocurrency, the monetary policy is not secret. The monetary policy is locked into code that's publicly available. We call it open source software. And so you know what the rules are, whether or not there's a supply cap, meaning that like with Bitcoin, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin made, ever. That's all the software can make, and you can't change it, or very, very difficult to change the software rules. Other cryptocurrencies, they have inflation rates, their supply cap, like TUSC, where we don't cap our supply, but we have a controlled inflation rate. And again, that inflation rate is controlled by software. And so everybody can see what the monetary policy is. So how cryptocurrency is superior to, say, government issued currency is that we can't freaking manipulate it for our own political whim. For instance, the rules are known by everybody and it's open source. So if you think about monetary policy of government's done in back rooms, right? It's done between bankers and politicians, whereas with cryptocurrency, it's done by programmers out in the open. So everybody knows what the rules are around that cryptocurrency or that. And so there's the big difference, is that it's more honest money. So inflation is a tax. People don't think of it like that, but what's happening is it's a stealth tax. It hurts everybody. And most people don't understand economics enough to know what's happening. They just see that the price of eggs and gas has gone up and they don't know why. But that is why. It's bad monetary policy. Well, cryptocurrency, and in fact, Bitcoin was created in response to TARP back in 2008. That's why they ended up creating Bitcoin. If you look at the writings of the creators of Bitcoin, that's why they did it. It was in response to reckless and irresponsible monetary policy by politicians. So cryptocurrencies in general are different than that. And so TUSC, we created, a more honest money, but we decided to focus on getting people to use it specifically in the gun industry, because the gun industry is a marginalized industry. A lot of people don't know this, but not because of laws, but just because of banking policy. Lawful gun retailers are not allowed to use any third-party payment option like PayPal or Venmo or Square or Cash App or any of them. And in fact, lawful gun dealers that are background checked, that have FFLs, they end up paying very exorbitant, basically credit card processing transaction fees. And so we sought, and the other thing about what's happening right now in the gun world, and this is the problem we're trying to solve, is that they're being financially deplatformed. We're seeing this a lot with, right of center voices are being deplatformed from social media and the web, but they're also, a lot of people don't know this, but they're also being deplatformed financially. And so what we decided to do is create essentially Bitcoin and start with the gun world, because they're being financially marginalized. And the other beauty thing about cryptocurrencies that I didn't get into is this is a big term, what we call decentralization, or they're decentralized. And what that means is that there's no single point of failure that controls whether or not you can have a TUSC account. So with TUSC, there is no owner. There is no company. TUSC is a group of people that wrote some software. There's no CEO. I'm not the boss. I am a co-founder. But the way our crypto project is operated and governed is through a very robust voting mechanism. We all know about how voting goes these days. But what happens is, if you own one TUSC, not only can you buy and sell things with that TUSC, but you can also vote on how the TUSC project, the cryptocurrency, is operated. It's basically direct democracy. So the more TUSC you hold, the more stake you have, the more weight and influence you have over the network. And what with our software, let's just say you're a gun retailer. I don't like you. Guess what? There's people I don't like out there. I don't have the ability to shut your account down just because I don't like you. And in fact, I don't have the ability to shut any account down. There's no such function in our blockchain, in the code. There's no operation that allows for any person anywhere to shut down an account. So it's decentralized in that way. And there's good and bad that comes with that. By the way, there's some people that love to shut their accounts down, but I don't have the power to do that. And so as far as why we believe that we're superior to, fiat currencies or government issued currency, is that we can't shut you down. And from payment system perspective, for retailers, there's no transaction fee whatsoever for retailers if they use TUSC for payments.
Wow, there's a lot of stuff there. I'm an old school guy. Okay. Rob, I'm the kind of guy who says, okay, I've got 10 ounces of gold. That's worth 10 ounces of gold. The market the money used to be based on that. Mm-hmm. And so if you couldn't make more than what you had in your hand. And the security of having that in your hand was kind of how I, now my son-in-law is trying to talk me into going to this, and I did buy into some Bitcoin stuff.
Sure.
And I'm, because I don't want to miss the boat, and I'm willing to learn. But it's so confusing to me because I know that 10 ounces of gold is worth $17,000.
Right. We
Right
know what
now.
it looks like. We
Right-
know what
right
it
now.
feels like. We
Right.
can, hold it in our hand. And, when I think about this cryptocurrency idea, it feels more like maybe the stock market, right? Because you own things, but you're never going to hold it in your hand, and the value can go up, it can go down, these sorts of things. So it's more like the stock market than it is holding coins or gold or something in your hand.
It's like a hybrid, I think, to be
Okay.
honest. I think it's like a hybrid.
between
So it
the
has
two.
features of both. So if you think about it, gold is commodity price. Like the price of gold fluctuates, even though it's very steady, right? But gold and silver, precious metals, they fluctuate every day. Like if you're going to go buy gold, this like I do. You go to the gun store, they look on the monitor to see what the spot price is at that moment you're buying it, right?
Right.
Same thing with crypto, right? So here's the one thing. Government's not determining the value of it, the market is. And a lot of people have a harder time with that, but that's actually more honest than government manipulation and pegging rates and things like that. But the other piece is, so as far as other commodities, you can't hold crypto in your hand, right? I get this. But if you look at how most dollars are, very few people hold dollars. Everybody uses their credit card and debit card, and to move money around, they use Venmo, they use PayPal. Most people in the United States right now do not use cash, even though they can, they don't. Most of our dollars are already digital.
Right.
So if you understand that, right? Like if you use a debit card, and I know I use a debit card a lot, that's really not that much different than crypto. If you think about it, it's just how that information moves around dollars back and forth between your debit card and SWIFT and the banks is just different than how that crypto movement of value or that information across that network is different.
Okay, well, I'm open to all of this, and I really mean that. So I don't want to sound negative when I ask you these questions, but it's because I don't understand. And like I said, my son-in-law has brought me to a better place with this, and I do like some of the concepts of it. But so let's say I'm a gun owner, a gun dealer, which I am, and a person wants to buy $1,000 gun. I look on the computer and says that TUSC is worth $1,000 per share or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then I make the transaction, and then all of a sudden it could go up or go down from that point quickly, right?
Sure
It's
can.
very volatile.
So how can you operate like that?
Yeah.
So volatility. So let's start back. Why are cryptocurrencies volatile right now? And this is a growth problem, but understand very few cryptocurrencies are actually used for buying and selling anything, even Bitcoin. Very few actual transactions for goods or services are happening. So what happens is most of the transactions on markets for crypto right now are based on investors, high frequency trading. That's what causes them to be so volatile. We believe that once a crypto actually gets used for buying and selling goods and services, it's gonna go through and stabilize on itself, just like with fiat currencies, dollars, right? So why is the US dollar stable? Again, there's nothing that backs the US dollar. And why is, for instance, money from Zimbabwe or Venezuela very volatile, right? It's really kind of the same thing. It's perception. And so we believe that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. We believe that adoption of crypto, and understand no cryptos for the most part have been adopted for buying and selling goods and services anywhere in the world. And so this is we're really early. And so as far as gun dealers go, and this is what I tell people, we have some ideas on how this will go. We say it like this. If you were a gun retailer, and this is my sales pitch essentially, when I'm talking to a gun retailer, look, why don't you accept TUSC for payments? How about this? And it's a free insurance policy against being deplatformed. Okay, I doubt in the beginning you're going to get a lot of transactions regardless, right? Because we're new, we're just starting to get out there. And so for a mom and pop that they absolutely need cash right now, accepting TUSC is probably not the right person for that. They're probably not the right shop yet, because if they need dollars right now, they're probably not going to be accepting TUSC. On the other hand, though, as we grow and build this network out, we have baby step implementations that we're looking at. We're talking to some major players in the industry, and how we get TUSC in the hands of people in the beginning is we're looking at positioning TUSC like an airline's mile coin for some of the big retailers. So the idea is that if you're going to a certain gun company or an accessories company, you buy something with a credit card, you get credit back in TUSC. And so we believe that in the beginning, that's going to be the bulk of where we start getting people excited about TUSC and start learning about TUSC. And then we believe that there are some companies we're talking to that are very interested in getting in early. And so they're not having to sell it right away. They would actually like to accumulate now while it is cheap, so to speak. And then as we grow and the value grows, they benefit from that upside potential. So we see it as like baby steps and phases. We're building something that's going to be here for 100 years, right? We're looking at a very long timeline. We are not saying we're going to replace credit cards now, though technologically we could. It's going to take time to get that volatility out. We got to get our market cap growing and our daily trade volumes increasing. And we're working on a lot of things like that. And we have a lot of things that are going to be rolling out over the next 6 months that will support that. So understand there's in the beginning, the people that are going to be, the retailers that are going to be accepting TUSC are going to be the ones that are willing to be pioneers, essentially. And there are some risks with that, but we're trying to do our best to make it so there's little risk.
Right.
So El Salvador, I believe it was, decided a week or two ago that they were going to make Bitcoin one of their official national currencies.
Right.
And the very next day, people were revolting and there were fires in the streets and this sort of thing. And it's because they don't have the infrastructure there, from what I understand. First of all, they didn't explain it to people. Second of all, I think half the country doesn't even have like smart devices and internet and that sort of
electricity
thing.
In a lot of parts.
Electricity, right. And so it was a sloppy rollout. It was maybe a wrong-headed idea that I think probably kind of caused people who are already suspicious of like, what is this whole crypto thing? And what is this Bitcoin thing, to point to El Salvador and go, see, people don't want it. They don't know how to use it. They don't want it foisted on them. But to be offered as just an option, I think if they would have done a better job of that, to say to people, it was just an option for you, rather than replacing our actual coins and dollars, maybe that would have gone over better. But what is your insight, understanding this whole world better than someone like myself? What is your insight about that whole debacle?
I actually think the El Salvador thing is very corrupt, and I think it's a bad thing. And I'll tell you why. It's forced adoption. It's not voluntary. Mm-hmm. And so, one, I don't trust American politicians as far as I can throw them, and I trust Central and South American politicians a lot less. So these are my criticisms of it. One, the way they did it, it's all centralized. So meaning that the government has complete control over how it's being implemented, government wallets, government ATMs. And so if you look at I believe there's two problems. One, I believe that because of the way the transactions are handled, there's fees associated when, like, say, the government buys crypto. Mm-hmm. It's going through politically connected banks. So the politicians are making graft because they get to choose which bankers get to get those millions of dollars in fees every time the government uses tax dollars as an investment to buy Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So let's start there. And two, if you look at most of South and Central American political systems and economic systems, they're very cash-centric, cultures. And one of the biggest gripes of Central and South American politicians is they're not able to properly tax informal cash-only markets. It's a big gripe among the politicians down there because everybody uses cash. So they're missing out on a lot of sales tax. Well, Bitcoin is not a privacy coin. Most cryptos aren't privacy coins, by the way. So what happens is if they force retailers to take transactions of Bitcoin through government-controlled wallets, which you to get your initial free, they bribe the people by giving them $30 worth of Bitcoin into this wallet. But to get the wallet to claim your $30, you had to basically ID yourself. So they now can associate all those transactions through that government wallet from that point forward with who you are. And so to me, I look at it like this. I think it's going to be used as a financial surveillance tool to go after cash-free, cash-only, tax-free informal markets. And then I think on the other hand, the politicians are grafting on the fees through their banking system. So I think that implementation of it is really horrible. Do I think the idea of people using crypto is good? Absolutely. But the way they implemented it was really bad. Again, I view technology like guns. They're neutral. They can be used for good or bad. And I think this is an example of crypto being used in part for bad. We'll see how it rolls out over time, but those are my concerns about it. And then I think we'll just have to debrief in a year and see what that looks like and if it really changed things. Now, understand also, the government in El Salvador doesn't have their own government issued fiat currency. Their actual official currency is the US dollar. And so politicians like to have power from controlling and then being able to inflate money and borrow money ad nauseum. And El Salvador the politicians in El Salvador don't have that power currently. And so this is the next best thing, is that they can control this. There's ways for them to graft this. So I think that's some of the concerns that I have about it. Now, a lot of other people in the crypto communities, especially people in the Bitcoin-centric community, completely disagree with me on this because they're just excited that it's validation of adoption, but I'm a little more skeptical of it.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't trust U.S. currency. Okay, when you said about trust, I don't understand cryptocurrency, and I'm learning, but I don't trust the American dollar.
Right. And it's hard to know what to trust because there was a time in U.S. history where it was illegal for citizens to own physical gold and silver, I believe, right, Dan?
Right. Well, no,
And
gold.
so
Gold. I don't
just
think it-
gold. Okay. And so, how easy then would it be for the powers that be to decree that, well, you can't have these digital currencies either. And at least, if you did have physical gold, you could squirrel it away somewhere, and trade it.
That would be illegal.
It would be illegal, but I'm just
It's
saying
very
that,
illegal. And if you have coins from a certain point in history and you get caught with it, you go to jail now.
Right.
So understand that. And there's been several different circumstances of, gold eagles from certain dates that if you have them in your possession, they're just going to confiscate them.
No, there's only
Even now.
there's only one, 1933
Yeah.
is the only one that is, you can have any gold coins. But I wanted to finish with my part was saying that I am curious about cryptocurrency, and I think a good advice would be everybody should try it. You don't have to put your whole life savings in it, but everybody should at least invest in it a little bit
I don't give financial advice, but I would say I think everybody should have some exposure to Bitcoin.
Right.
Specifically. And the reason being is I believe it's the safest long-term investment crypto because there's so many mega billionaires and major corporations that have sunk billions of dollars into that as a hedge. I don't think they're going to let it go to zero. So to me, I'm just, of all the cryptos, I think Bitcoin's the safest long-term. Right now is a hold. And I own Bitcoin. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I own a lot of Bitcoin too. It's why I'm here too. I'm an investor in crypto. But Bitcoin has become more of a digital gold, and even the Bitcoin community acknowledges it's a store of value. We're focused more on getting people to use crypto for payments because ultimately I think that's where we free people more than anything. I think you are seeing inflation now. I mean, I've seen inflation in some items 20-30% this year. I mean, it's insane. So if you didn't get a 20% raise, you're losing ground right now holding dollars. And unfortunately, it's probably going to just keep getting worse because, all the money they just keep printing and printing and printing. It's just devaluing the dollars we hold. It's just, they're taxing us and they won't call it what it is, but that's what it is.
So let me dive
Okay.
in here for a second. So when we talk about the manipulatability of a crypto, whichever one it is, it seems to me that all it takes is a tweet by an Elon Musk and things take a jump or a dive in the crypto world. And so that to me feels like, of course we see that in the stock market. It's a little less dramatic and easy to do with, a traditional fiat currency system. But with the crypto and the digital, it just seems to me that, if I have a bunch of it and I'm an Elon Musk level person, then all I got to do is, say something negative, it's going to dive down. I'm going to buy up a bunch of it. Now I'm going to say something positive. It's going to go up. I'm going to sell a bunch of it. That just feels too squishy for me.
It is squishy. It's also illegal, by the way. And Elon Musk has been, already censored, by the SEC around Tesla talk. He can't talk about Tesla stock, if you noticed. So there's reasons for that. So that's illegal behavior under US law. But I think on the other hand, most of the time, the cryptos that are most susceptible to that also have no fundamentals underneath them, right? They're literally just hype coins or meme coins that really don't have any use case. They don't have anybody using them for anything. Whereas with our coin, we actually don't hype price. We don't even allow people talking about the coin price in our social media, because to me, it's a distraction, really. It's a distraction from our mission, which is to support and protect gun retailers from being financially deplatformed. And ultimately, if it's not us, who is? What's the plan B right now? So here's a great thing. I don't know if you saw this, but one of the things that we're doing, we're trying to create right now an insurance policy for continuity of business for marginalized gun retailers. But I don't know if you saw this a couple of weeks ago, but the Anti-Defamation League and PayPal invested in the ADL in this new kind of list. They're researching how to quote unquote fight hate in financial transactions. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
It's ominous. Go look it up. Type in PayPal, just Google PayPal ADL. And so what's happening is PayPal is joining forces with the ADL to fight hate in financial transactions. I believe, and a lot of us who talk about this believe, that they're creating a financial no-fly list. And before, if you look at it, goes back to Operation Choke Point, back under the Obama administration, there's, several industries that are all distasteful to people. It's things like gambling and payday lending and pornography and things like that were all financially deplatformed under Operation Choke Point. That's when the
all legal things were
all legal things,
right.
But guns were lumped in there too. Now, and so, but I always say that, the industries that have the biggest problem are all distasteful to somebody, right? And they are. Guns are distasteful to half the country, at least. And so what we look at it is, before you had industries that were denied financial services or had to pay more fees to use, financial services like the gun industry. This is a whole new level. They're trying to target individuals and create a list of individuals that will not be allowed to do transactions.
Wow. I have got to look into this. This is new.
No, look into it. It's underrated. What else? But here's the thing, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not an alt-right guy. I'm not like a, Nazi or anything like this. But if you go to the website for the ADL and look at what they define as hate, there's a really, really slippery slope there. And so like, if you're critical of, I don't want to get into politics, but
sure,
they have a lot of things that are just conservative positions and not just like Nazi positions, right? That they define as hate. So here's the thing: if PayPal decides with them to create this financial no-fly list, then it gets adopted by other financial institutions, other banks. They're going to start saying, you as a conservative, or you as someone that has ideas that might be right of center or even extreme ideas, but you can have an extreme idea and not be, a hateful person. You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm not conservative on everything. There's a lot of things I'm not a conservative about. I'm a libertarian, not a conservative. And so, but to me, that's a huge, dangerous, slippery slope where now PayPal and the ADL are going to create a list of people who can buy and sell or not buy and sell. Well, here's the thing, cryptocurrency solved this. So here, this is why it's important. Whether you understand crypto or your listeners understand crypto, the fact is the only thing that could stop them is a non-centralized payment system like cryptocurrency that doesn't have the ability to be censored. And this is important. They have the control over the banking system. They have control over PayPal and Venmo and Square. They can shut down an account anytime they want. And the thing is with crypto like TUSC, they don't have control over it. They can't shut you down. And that's the difference. We're censorship resistant. And that's the insurance policy. The fact is, I don't know how this is going to roll out or when it's going to roll out because they're not telling us. But you have to go look at what they do and what they believe. And the fact that they're putting money behind this to research it. So the question is, where does that end up? I can say, I have a good idea where that's going to end up. And so, and you've seen this so many times already where the anti-gun groups are telling Visa and MasterCard to not allow gun purchases.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you've seen this pressure. To me, the handwriting's on the wall. This is the future. Gun retailers and gun people are going to be prohibited at some point from using normal banking services. And if we don't create a system now and start building that system out, that infrastructure, we're going to be hosed. And whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not, this is, as far as I can tell, I don't know a better way to secure the future for freedom of financial transactions.
Rob, I've been in the business for 18 years and I know exactly what you're saying is true. We were chased out of Chase Bank. We have had to switch credit card companies several times, the processors. So how do we do that? How do you do this? I mean, so a customer walks in the store, how hard is it going to be for him to buy into this program? I mean, it's going to take a lot of time. Could he do it over the counter? What could be done to help with that?
Right. But we're old enough to remember when you used to put your credit card on this metal thing and you would slide a plate back and forth.
I'm old enough to remember that. Not as young.
Right.
I'm old enough to remember that too.
Right?
I used to do those, right, when I was younger.
To make a carbon paper thing, right? And so, you know, then it became, all right, now you've got this digital thing pad that you sign, right, for your credit card. So, but we've changed and we've evolved, but we understand when you came from here, you used to pay cash. Well, now you've got this piece of plastic and this piece of plastic represents, you know, a debt file somewhere. And we move forward. Now we've got this thing called TUSC, right? And let's say that we have just shifted out of the retail space for the gun world. We have an auction house. We still deal with guns in our auction house, but somebody comes in and they want to transact with us with TUSC. Like, what do we have? We don't have one of those big metal machines that chunks back and forth. We don't have a digital screen where somebody's signing and we're swiping a plastic card. What is the process?
So where we are right now, where we will be in 12 months are two very different things. So the goal where we'll be hopefully in 12 months is that it won't be any more difficult or weird than using PayPal. And that's the goal. Our goal is to make crypto easy. The problem with a lot of crypto right now, it's complicated, it's clunky. And that's because think of it as like crypto right now on the e-commerce side. We're in like 1998 internet, your e-commerce. That's where we are. We're like basically dial-up modem stage. So there's going to be a lot of changes happening. And trust me, I was definitely growing up in that time frame. And so I remember those days, right? So right now we do have free payment gateways that any retailer can download if they want to accept TUSC right now from forgingblock.io. They can download those for free and then they can accept TUSC. You set up a free TUSC account and you're good to go if you have one of the major shopping cart softwares. I always tell people, I like people, Shopify hates guns, but they won't allow you anyway. But I always say free and open source software that you host yourself is the safest from like the technology stack. So I always say WooCommerce is open source. If you run your website, your e-commerce site on WooCommerce, we have a WooCommerce plugin through Forging Block and you can accept TUSC and no one can shut you down.
Okay, so how would a person get involved? Not the retail store, but the consumer, how would he buy the TUSC?
So right now you have to buy it on an exchange and the list of exchanges is growing. You can find those at TUSC.network. We just literally, our wallet, so we just spent 3 months upgrading our entire backend network and did what we called our first hard fork, which will allow for the creation of non-fungible tokens and assets built on our blockchain as well. We are completely rebuilding our web wallet or cloud wallet, and that will be back online in about a week. So we just made some major milestones, growth that we're super, super excited about. And then over the next couple of months, we're going to be doing a whole lot of upgrades to making e-commerce a lot easier. We're going to be building out a ton more tools. The thing is with open source software, I mean, it takes a little longer to do things. We're not a company. So it's like sometimes people are volunteers, some of the developers are working for TUSC. Sometimes, there's a lot of ways that things get done. We have a lot of integrations planned. Probably next year is going to be a really big year for the project because we are in talks with major players in the gun space now because they're scared. The bottom line is I've had 3 people, I can't say who it is, but I want to because we're so early yet, but I would say that they're brands you would know, that we were talking to before the last SHOT Show, at the last SHOT Show in person, and then they ghosted us. And then all of a sudden, like literally in the last 2 weeks, I've had the CTO from a major point of sale provider in the gun space reach out to me. We are talking to some major players in the retail side of big brands, and they're interested. And then we just had a national classified group reach back out to us because everybody's scared. They're scared. I mean, the bottom line is they see the handwriting on the wall and there's nothing else. So I look at it like this: if not us, what? What is the plan B for the gun industry?
Right. If we've thought of that. I mean, there's times I thought I can't take credit cards anymore because I'm not going to be allowed to. But one of the things you mentioned, point of sale programs. I've had 3 major point of sale programs in 18 years. Every one of them had only one gateway that you could use. And it was like, nothing was ever good.
Payment
gateway. Yeah. And it was not friendly. Okay. So I don't trust where we're going to. And I agree with you that we need to do something because we're going to wake up one day and they're going to say, oh, you can't use credit cards anymore. Or your bank's going to say, we don't want to. Chase told me I was depositing too much cash. Well, it wasn't. It was because I was depositing gun cash.
Right.
They knew.
Exactly. And they do know. And you wouldn't hear, you know this, but how many times I've talked to a lot of it's the mom and pop shops that are getting the most screwed. If you're a big player in the gun industry, they don't want to lose your business, right? But if you're a mom and pop star, which by the way, I think there's 55,000 FFLs in the country, most of them are mom and pop FFLs. They're the ones paying the most fees. They're the ones that have to go to 7 banks before they can even get a checking account. And they're the ones that, even though they get, denied off, permanently banned from PayPal, right? 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, it's like I've heard horror stories time and time again. The bigger players don't have as much of a problem. They can set their own prices because they're big enough, right? The banks don't want to lose the $1 billion a year company. But ultimately, we're right now. I mean, you can accept TUSC right now. It's not easy, but we're here to support people. It's easier now, but it's getting easier. And so to me, I come at it from the point of view that we want to make it so hopefully in the next 12 months or so that doing a payment with TUSC is you don't even know it's crypto. We want to make it that easy, but we have to grow before that for some of those relationships that we need to put in place to allow for that to happen. But we're working on it. So we're going to be on some we're in the pipeline already to be on some major American exchanges, early next year. And some of this is just that crypto is growing so fast that even the big exchanges, they can't onboard cryptos quick enough. It's just because there's just this industry is a $2 trillion industry right now. People don't understand crypto is so big. This is not a fad. This is not going away. Crypto is the future of technology. And I will say between NFTs, DeFi or decentralized finance and crypto payments are going to do in the next 5 to 10 years what the fax machine and cell phones and e-commerce did to business. It's going to do that to banking. It's going to be so fundamentally.
I'm sorry, but you mentioned NFT.
Yes, we are quickly running out of time. We have so many more topics to get to and questions for you. We are going to have you back on, but in the next, we have maybe 8-ish minutes. You mentioned non-fungible tokens, which I understand to be NFT. And I don't think we can finalize this conversation without touching on the word blockchain.
Sure.
So are those two things something you can merge together in one answer, or are they two separate things? Go.
All right. So NFTs and cryptocurrency are very similar technologically. So an NFT is a type of essentially cryptocurrency, but it usually has a graphical representation associated with it. So let's start there. An NFT is a crypto token with some kind of media attached to it, typically. A blockchain, this is a little more complicated, but I'll make it simple. All a blockchain is what it's where the information from cryptocurrencies and NFT resides. So think of it, all a blockchain is a database that's spread across a variety. Think of a ring of computers that share a database, and those computers talk to each other. And then when enough of those computers agree on something, on that information being passed, it becomes part of a permanent or immutable record that's publicly available. So if you go to the Bitcoin blockchain and you look at it, you can see every transaction that went back to the history of the creation of Bitcoin. It's all a historical record. And you can view that through a software called a block explorer. Why that's important, though, is that this is part of the decentralized aspect of crypto, is that each one of those computers or nodes in that blockchain, any one of those little servers that run the network, are independently owned and operated, and they don't need to talk to somebody else and have permission to run one. So for instance, with the TUSC blockchain, we have 21 active nodes at any given point. Now that's more than 3 times about what we need to operate. So those computers that run TUSC are spread across the planet. We literally have a block producer. We call them, our miners are called block producers. Well, we have one in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. There's a server supporting TUSC in Vietnam. They're all over the planet. Those computers, if one of those goes down, there's about 100 at any given point that's willing to self-heal and fill that void. It's redundancy. It's multiple levels of redundancy into that network. So let's just say that a bad actor, whether it be a government or a company, wants to take down your financial system. You could take down half our block producers. There'll be backups that immediately fill that spot. It's self-healing. You can't take it down. And that's that censorship resistance. So like if PayPal, for instance, they just have one database that runs their whole network. If enough bad actors really wanted to take PayPal down, they could probably figure out how to do it. But the thing is, all those different servers are independently run, and no one knows who they are, because they're set up by individuals, and they get a little piece of the action for running that server. And that's kind of how blockchains work. So blockchains are just databases spread across independently owned and operated computers. And that's it. And then the record of all the transactions are a permanent record that's unchangeable. And so that's kind of what a blockchain is, just a database. It's a slow database spread across computers. Is
that like mining then? Like you hear a Bitcoin miner, somebody who has these computers. Is that what that is?
It's similar. So different, this is another show. There's different types of blockchains. There's 3 different main types of blockchains that are out there. So our block producers perform a similar function, but they do it differently than Bitcoin does. And I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise we get in the weeds.
Can you accept more of those type of people, or are you set with what you have?
So our blockchain's delegated proof of stake. So part of our security is that the 21 main block producers are elected to that position. So the community votes on them. And usually the people that get voted on are people that do things for the network. And now that doesn't mean you have to know, it can still be anonymous, meaning you could have a handle, but you could say, I'm so-and-so, I do this for the network, vote for me to be a block producer. And then people will use their TUSC to vote for you to be in that slot.
And they earn TUSC.
They earn TUSC to do it. Yes. Yeah. So right now a block producer makes $74,400,000 a year if they're up 100% uptime. It's mathematics. It's math. It's all software and math. And so I think given the whatever the price of TUSC is, that might be $5,000 to $7,000, but the hardware necessarily do that, it's almost free, because we can run on any type of computer. You don't have to run a special miner like for Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That is great to know. And last question to wrap this up. from my side. And then if we've forgotten anything super important that you know that we need to know, please dive in after this question. But when you think about, especially when you're our age, right? We're grandparents. We've already, put together our will and our estate and all of this sort of stuff, our trust. When you talk about a wallet, you've mentioned the word wallet a few times. From what I understand, that is something that is, there's like strings of passwords. And if you lose any of those pieces of that password, you're done for. Like, you are never getting back into that wallet. You are that whatever that value is evaporates into the ethers. Has anybody so far, and are these kinds of portions of your financial portfolio, these crypto things, are they something you can put in a will and an estate and a trust and bequeath?
Yep, they're property. So absolutely, they're legal property. So it's just digital property. Absolutely.
And are they taxable?
Of course, that's the one thing about people saying, "Oh, you just scam me taxes." The IRS has had very firm guidance on the taxation of crypto since 2014. So if you're a block producer or a miner, you have to pay income tax based, and they already tell you how to calculate it. So, and by the way, I write checks to the government every year because I do run a block producer node for the network. But I am not hidden. People know who I am. I'm Rob McNealy, and I'm co-founder of TUSC, and we don't hide who our block producer is. I'm doxxed, but lots of people aren't doxxed. Doxxed means I'm not anonymous. But yeah, so key management is important and critical, just like you don't want to lose the key. All right, so you hold gold, right? I'm assuming if you own gold, you probably have it in a safe, right? Well, you don't lose that combination, right? Because you'd be locked out.
We can hire a safe, combination locksmith to get into the safe. And with these wallets, apparently there is no such creature.
And then the government can use the same technology to come confiscate that gold if they wanted to, couldn't they?
Yeah, right. They can come drill a hole in your safe. Right.
Yeah.
Touche, right. Rob.
Right. No.
So ultimately it's like this with the extra protection afforded by crypto, there's extra responsibility, and key management is critical. And I can tell you the extent that my wife and I go with our personal assets in crypto, we have very, very extensive backup plans, and we keep things in different locations, and we both know where our keys are, and we keep them in waterproof things inside of fireproof things, and those things are put in different locations. So if one of those goes down, then we still have a backup for that too. And so there are best practices that you can do. In fact, there's a company that makes an all metal thing that key that you can literally put your key in all metal, and then they just give you a bunch of little pieces of metal with different characters in the alphabet, and you put your keys together, lock it together, and now that's going to be fireproof, for instance. So there's lots of interesting tools out there to help with that. But yes, it's you get the extra privilege and extra security of crypto, but it does take some thinking about it, and there are best practices around that already. And that unforgiving nature is it's a benefit and a liability. If you're sloppy and you lose things all the time, and you're not diligent about where you keep this, I can tell you, I know someone who worked on our project early that lost $200,000 because they messed up a key thing. And so I know people that have. And so personally, I've known two people that have lost significant amount of money in crypto, not just on ours, but
that's no different than being careless and leaving your safe open, and then somebody breaks in your house and gets all the stuff out of the safe. You have to be careful.
That's
you have
true.
to be diligent. And so absolutely. So go on. I'm sorry.
Rob, I just want to know how can people find out more about what you do? Who would they contact to get more information?
Well, we have all the socials and they're all listed at TUSC.network. That's TUSC.network, TUSC.network. And we have a Telegram group and a Discord group, and there's lots of helpful people in our community. And I'm just type in Rob McNealy. My socials are easy to find too. So if you guys have questions about things, we always try to help people out and make things as easy as possible. Our community is growing. And so we're super excited. Like we've been to 4 different gun related events this summer. So it's been like a pretty busy travel season for us. We got, so the cool thing is, the one thing I didn't say, and you might want to think about this too, is that we have unlike Bitcoin, we have a worker proposal fund that every time new TUSC are created to buy our block producers, a little bit goes into this worker fund. So we have this sustainable, continuously filling pool to pay for workers and developers and people that want to market the project. And what happens is, if someone wants to work for TUSC, they can put in a worker proposal, and then the community votes on that proposal to pay them, and then it automatically goes into their wallet. So we have Hank Strange and John Crump, are 2 gun podcaster activists. They both put in worker proposals, and for sponsorship of their podcasts. And so the TUSC community voted for those worker proposals. And so we, as a community, support both of their podcasts. And I know that we have 3 or 4 others that are coming on to do the same right after we get the wallet back on next week and really start moving forward. We'll have more podcasters and people that want to help. So though that worker fund can help, can pay for marketing, it can pay for people that want to do programming. And we're an open source community. Anybody who's into guns and is into programming, we need all sorts of help, and you can get paid in our crypto for that. We do have a market caps between 3 and 6 million depending on the day. So we are traded on several exchanges, and we're going to be getting on more. So we're becoming more liquid. So it's like over time, it's going to become more valuable, I think, as we start building this community out. But that's what we're focused on, is just kind of building this community around this project. And so people like, gun retailers feel safe, accepting TUSC, that it's going to be something that's going to be around for a while.
Sure.
That is awesome.
Fantastic. We are definitely going to have you back on so we can ask all of the other 50 questions that I have for you. And in the meantime, people can be researching you themselves through TUSC.network. Rob McNealy, thank you so much for all of your time and sharing all this information with us.
Guys, thank you so much. I've appreciated being on today.
Rob, I'd like to thank
Absolutely.
you for being concerned about the future of our gun industry.
Yes.
Thank you
absolutely.
for trying to figure out something to save our industry. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We definitely need help.
We
The
do.
industry
And you
does
could
need
tell
help.
he had something to say. And I'm like, I wish we had more time and let him say it, but we'll definitely have him back on and come back with some more intelligent questions, because it's hard to ask intelligent questions about something that you
Right.
know so little about.
I know nothing about it.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to learn. I'm very curious about it. And now that they're telling me that they can use it for gun purchases without somebody arbitrarily say you can't do it,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in it now, and I'm
The-
going to get involved.
The fact that he brought up the idea of a financial no-fly list, I mean, absolutely, that is, I think it's more than possible. I believe it's
Right.
probable. And if we aren't looking ahead to how we can protect ourselves, we are being irresponsible
Right.
and have our heads in the sand. So anyway, this weekend coming up, I'm going to be at an event called AmCon. By the time this airs, AmCon will have already happened, because we're in the studio on Tuesday, September 28th, 2021. Chris Chang is going to be giving us a talk on NFTs, crypto, digital firearms, whatever that means. And so I foresee having Chris on and talking about these things as well. And so, one thing will help us better understand the other. One speaker will help us understand pieces of it to ask for the other. So anyway, I'm excited about it. I have to move slowly, because you never invest in something that you don't understand, right? But I think we've got some really smart people around us to help us with that. So we have got to wrap up and get out of here like right now.
So then we should be praying for our nation.
Absolutely. Praying for the people in positions of leadership and responsibility, even the ones you don't like.
Right.
Especially the ones you don't like. People who would come at us with things like a no-fly list, a financial no-fly list, simply for having ideas that
Simply for control.
Yeah. Those people need our prayer.
Yes.
And there's so many more things to say. please stick with us. Please, start researching these topics so that when we come back, we're all kind of in a new space with it. And until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.
Bye-bye.